First, let's give a big round of applause for Manal Khawaja. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Manal Khawaja, and I'll be presenting two poems originally written. The first one is called Solo Me Out. Solo me out from one to everyone here, because I am not them. Solo me out from the past and the present, because who I am now is someone I'll never be in the future. Solo me out from mistakes and flaws. Those don't make me, me, because who I become later and what name I give myself, I have no control over at the moment. But solo me out. Solo me out from words of others, because what you've heard, it was altered and screwed and messed with, the meaning screwed. And what you've heard was adjusted and used, but solo me out. From all of that, all of them, because they are not me, because don't I get to choose who I want to be? Don't I get to decide that name for me? My future is not the name I was given, but the name I've earned. It isn't just a persona, but in total, everything I've learned. And then the second one is called Paint the Sky with Flashing Colors. Paint the sky with flashing colors, the world is your canvas. Pick up a paintbrush and choose a few colors. Doesn't matter if they match or not, in the end you'll make it work. Paint the sky with flashing colors and make it stand out, make it known, it's original and beautifully shown. You might accidentally mess up and try to clean that stain, but it only smudges more, so you paint over it with more flashing colors. And somehow you still manage to make it look good. Paint the sky with flashing colors, because if you don't, who will? Thank you.
All right, I thought those were really two beautiful poems, and it takes a lot of courage for Manal to get up here and share her stuff with you. So could we just give her one more round of applause? The next speaker is a fellow named Johnny Smith, and as the English department supervisor, you know, I'm always trying to stay on top of who would be an interesting person to bring into Writers Expo. So, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, I saw that a new book had come out about Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X and their friendship. So I read the book, and it turns out that the author is an LHS alum. And I was like, wow, we got this alum, you know. So I contacted him and said, will you be willing to come in? And you know, to my surprise, he was like, yeah, I can come in. So we've been working on getting Johnny here for 2 years. We're really excited he's here today. Here's the official introduction. I just wanted to share that with you. I'm really happy that Johnny, being a graduate, is coming back and sharing all the stuff that he's written. So our guest today is an LHS graduate. He's the Julius C. Shaw Professor of Sports History and Associate Professor of History at Georgia Tech University. His research focuses on the history of American sports and American pop culture, about which he has authored 5 books, including his most recent, Jumpman, The Making and Meaning of Michael Jordan. He has won multiple book awards, including the North American Society for Sports History Book Award. In 2021, Netflix released a feature documentary based on his book, Blood Brothers, about the friendship between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and he's also a 2-time recipient of the Journal of Sports History's Best Article Award. Please welcome one of our very own, Johnny Smith.
Hello, hello. How y'all doing today? You know, I just said y'all. I'm from Libertyville. Do you know how I picked that up? I moved to Georgia. And my mother-in-law, sweet woman, she's from Savannah, Georgia. And you're around these Southerners, you start talking like them. So now I say y'all, and it just rolls off my tongue. Great to be back. We don't have snow in Georgia, okay? I haven't seen snow in like 4 years, really. I was thinking about that. When was the last time it snowed where I live? So I was thrilled when I came outside this morning from my hotel and I saw all the snow. I was like, this is great. I love this. I wish my daughter was here. She's 5. She's never really experienced snow. But I'm loving it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to love it later when I got to get on an airplane. I hope the snow doesn't prevent me from going home. But I'm excited to be back. I've had sort of a nostalgic experience here, thinking about my time at LHS and thinking about how I ended up back here 25 years after I graduated from LHS. I don't know where all the time went, but I'll tell you a little bit about that time in our time together now. Okay, next slide. So what you need to know about me is, yes, I'm an author. I write nonfiction, but I'm a historian, and I write history. And historians, we write about the past. We write about change and continuity over time, and we do that using primary sources, right? Original sources that were produced at the time of an event that we are studying. And those sources are like puzzle pieces for us to reconstruct the past, to reconstruct a story. It doesn't come out of thin air. History is not something that has been written by one author in one book and that's it. That's not how it works. History is an investigation that is continually revised and rewritten because we ask new questions, we use new methods, we discover new sources that change the way we look at an event, okay? So history is an interpretive process. So what I love about being a historian is that when I set out to write a book, it's kind of like being a detective, right? And I've got to put this puzzle together to write the book. But it's different than a traditional puzzle where someone hands you a box, and on the outside of the box, you have an image of the puzzle you're supposed to put together, and inside the box are all the pieces. Well, as a historian, the image in my mind, the picture in my mind, it only exists in my mind. I've created it. I have an idea of what these pieces might look like, how I might put them together. But first things first, I gotta find the puzzle pieces. And they're scattered everywhere. No one gives them to you when you write a book. You've got to find the sources in different places, different libraries, archives, and people's personal collections, right? Looking over troves of documents and letters and diaries and oral histories and interviews and newspaper articles and on and on and on, depending on what you're writing about. So it's an investigative process. I love that about it. Next slide. Okay, throughout my career, I have focused on the history of sports. The reason is I think sports are a great magnifying glass that we can use to study the history of America, the American experience, American culture. Whether we're interested in the history of immigration, or we're interested in race, or gender, or nationalism, or globalization, or capitalism, you can pretty much study any major historical theme through sports, right? Maybe you're interested in the civil rights movement. So you might turn your attention to the story of Jackie Robinson. How many of you have ever heard Jackie Robinson? Okay, mostly all of you. Can someone tell me something about Jackie Robinson? Yeah, in the back. I see your hand. Yeah, he was the man. That's right. I like that. So he broke the color line in Major League Baseball in 1947. He joined the Brooklyn Dodgers. His story about the integration in baseball moved from the sports page to the front page. This is a political story as much as it was a sports story. And it carried enormous cultural and political weight. There were enormous consequences for Robinson joining the Dodgers. If he succeeded, and he did, it would open the door for more black players to play. Not everybody liked that idea. There were segregationists who protested and said that this was the beginning of all sorts of evil. There were segregationists who believed that if black people and white people played sports together and they were intermixing, it would lead to what they called the mongrelization of the white race. That is to say that white supremacy would die because the races would mix. All because a black man played baseball with white men. So there was great danger, great risk in this noble experiment, as it was called. So those are the kinds of stories that interest me in my classes that I teach at Georgia Tech and in my writing. So sports have always served as agents of social change. They have occupied a special space in society where debates, conflicts are worked out among Americans. And so I'm interested in those intersections where the wires cross. Okay, next slide. Storytelling. I love to tell stories. It's fun. It's entertaining, right? And all of you may not end up becoming writers, and that's okay. But we're all storytellers. We all tell stories every day, right? We tell stories to our friends, to our family, to our coaches. We tell stories to our grandparents, and our grandparents tell us stories. It's human nature to tell stories. And the reason is that telling stories helps us make sense of the world around us. Storytelling is a tool for creating coherence and clarity and understanding. But what I love about telling stories is that they're a powerful tool for education. Sure, stories can be entertaining. The story of Jackie Robinson is thrilling in its retelling, but it's also a persuasive story to tell you about the power of Jackie Robinson, the courage of Jackie Robinson, and the implications of his strength to stand up against segregationists and what it meant for other people who followed in his trail. So storytelling is all part of what I do, okay? Next slide. Oh boy. Look at this kid. These are from my senior year, okay? Let's start with the American flag shirt, all right? I know you're judging me, and that's okay. So am I. What do you think of this picture? Good choice? You like it? You just made my day. What a sweet kid. Thank you, yes. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. The American flag had become fashionable in the 90s. You saw it on Ralph Lauren and Tommy Hilfiger, red, white, and blue. Those were the colors we wore, okay? I don't know. I was trying to be cool. Super cool, thank you. Now, let's look at the other picture. I don't know how much I weighed in that picture. I'm guessing like $140, soaking wet. That's what I'm guessing. I had really wanted to play on the boys basketball team at LHS. I tried out my freshman year. I got cut. I didn't make it. And I think what bothered me about getting cut my freshman year wasn't just that I didn't make it, but that this kid, Ryan Doyle, made the team. Ryan Doyle, my nemesis. He was from Michigan. His whole family went to Michigan State. They were Spartans. Yeah. And he liked the Red Wings and the Pistons and the Detroit Tigers and yeah, okay. You get what I'm saying, right? You know what he's like just when I tell you that. And he was obnoxious. He drove me crazy. All right, so I went on freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. I didn't try out again. I was afraid of getting cut again. I didn't want to fail. But something was eating at me that I wanted to try again because I knew I could play. Now, I wasn't the best player. I wasn't very big, so that was kind of an issue. But I really could play, okay? And at the same time, the truth is I was struggling in class. I was not a very focused or successful student. I got a lot of C's. Yeah, this guy, professor, PhD, 3 degrees, bunch of awards that make my mother proud. Yeah, me. I was a C student. Scored terribly on the ACTs. I don't know why the hell they use those things anyhow. But I digress. I went into my guidance counselor's office, junior year, started talking about colleges, showed her a list of schools that I thought would be awesome to go to, and she's like, you can't go to these schools. You don't have the grades. I struggled with self-doubt, insecurity, probably battled depression and felt invisible at times. I didn't have something to hold on to, a sense of identity, a sense of purpose. But I decided going into my senior year, I was going to try out for the basketball team, okay? So I made it. It was like my great achievement in high school. I didn't get a lot of playing time, but I'm very proud to say that the cheerleaders had a Johnny Smith cheer. And so when they were cheering for me, that's all that mattered. I had my own cheering section, which included my best friend, Ryan Doyle. Yes. Ryan and I went from being rivals to best friends. And ultimately, I would follow him to Michigan State. I'll get to that in a moment. Go green. Yes, we're going to take down the Tar Heels. I can feel it. Anyhow, so 1999, I graduate from high school. 3 of my teachers from LHS came to my high school graduation party. Not because I was the best student, but we had this bond. They were good people. I had built these great relationships with friends and the faculty and staff members here. I had, by and large, a great experience. Teachers who encouraged me to do my best, that believed in me, that told me at times, like, you're capable of more. And I started to believe that, and I needed to try. Okay, next slide. So, the summer of 1999, my mom and my stepfather, they got divorced, and we sold our house in Green Oaks. My mom moved to Tucson, Arizona with my little sister, and my brother was going to school at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and I lived with my dad in Palatine until I got ready to go to Illinois State. I would go to ISU for 2 years. More on that in a moment. So I'm getting ready to go to Illinois State, and during that summer, 2 things profoundly changed my view of the world. Number one is I worked in a sheet metal shop where my dad worked. My dad was a hardworking man. He made so much possible for me in my life. I'm very grateful for him. But the thing is, I didn't want his job. I didn't want to work in a sheet metal factory. I looked at the faces of these men who showed up and did the same job every day, doing this very demanding work on their feet, where they're getting cut with metal and bleeding and sweating, and it's terrible. So I'm out there, I'm doing this work, and I think to myself, I don't want to end up back here. I don't want to be a cog in the machine. I want to have my own something. I don't know what that is, but it means that when I go off to college, I need to at least try. I don't know if I'll be successful, but I was determined to be a better student. Then, on July 2nd, 1999, tragedy devastated me. This man here on the left, his name is Ricky Birdsong. He was a head basketball coach at Northwestern University in the early to mid-90s. I had the good fortune of living down the street from one of his assistant coaches, Paul Swanson, and his son, Paul Swanson's son, Brett. He and I became great friends, so I got to be a ball boy at Northwestern, and I was around the program all the time. The thing is, I grew up here in the Vernon Hills, Libertyville area. It was a very insular community. At that time, it was mostly white. I didn't have any black mentors, except Coach Birdsong. He was the first person of color that I had ever been around in a important way that I knew. But in 1999, he was murdered in a hate crime. A white supremacist, a neo-Nazi, opened fire on him as he was walking around the neighborhood in Skokie while he was walking with his 8-year-old son, Ricky Jr., and his 10-year-old daughter. Just killed him because he was black. So when I learned about this, I didn't know how to process it. We didn't talk about racism in my house. I didn't know how to deal with these feelings, with this heavy load. So I decided to go to the funeral. And I remember I was at the sheet metal shop, and I told one of the older guys there, a white guy, I was like, I'm leaving early today. He was like, oh, why is that? I said, I'm going to this funeral. You may have seen on the news that Coach Birdsong has been murdered. And he said, oh, you mean that Nigger who got himself shot? I mean, it was like a punch to the gut. I thought this was a good guy. And so it tells you something about racism and how it sometimes can be buried in places we don't see it, in the ways that it kind of becomes exposed. But I didn't know what to do with that. I was only 18. So I went to the funeral, and I was alone. And I sat in the church, and I just cried. I've never cried like that in my life. Never cried. Never experienced that kind of loss. And it's not like I'd seen Coach Birdsong recently, but he was a part of my experience. He made me feel important. He made me feel seen. We all need that. We need that from our parents, we need that from our teachers, the people that care about us. We need to be seen and be heard, right? So I left the church that day, and I was still thinking about this. And I remember when I went to ISU, that the leader of this hate organization, who was connected to the shooter who killed Coach Birdsong, he came to the campus to ISU. And I went and I listened to him speak and spew this vile hatred. And I wanted to know, where does this come from? Where does this historical belief of white supremacy come from? And that's why I turned to history. Next slide. So what happens? I go to Illinois State, and I realize I love learning. I love going to class. I had great teachers. I had this great history professor who was an excellent storyteller. I ended up tutoring a kid, me, the C student. Now I'm tutoring some kid just because he asked for help. It was like I was changing, okay? And suddenly I was getting straight A's. Oh, not so bad, Mrs. Guidance Counselor. So then I realized, that list of colleges that she told me I could never get into, now I have my choice. And you know where I'm going? East Lansing, Michigan, right? So I decided to transfer and reconnect with my best friend, Ryan Doyle. And when I got there, I was a history major, and I had a professor who changed my life. And it's this man here on the left, Dr. Pero Dagbovy. He's a professor of African American history. So in my senior seminar, I had to write a 20-page paper. I'm like, 20 pages? What can I write about for 20 pages? So ultimately, we talked, and I decided on Muhammad Ali, the great heavyweight boxing champion. Okay, I write this paper, and in this course, I realized that I can study history, I can study sports, and I can learn about the history of racial conflict in America. I can learn about black resistance and black triumph. I can learn about politics, culture, social issues. All of that is wrapped up in these history courses, and I took a course on the history of American sports. I was thinking to myself, this is fascinating. But then I needed him. I needed him to tell me, Johnny, you should go to graduate school. Keep writing. Keep writing? Yes. You have some talent. I have talent. I'm good at this. I didn't see it. I couldn't see it. There's still that self-doubt in the back of my mind, right? But he says, keep going. So I graduated from MSU. I went to Western Michigan with his encouragement, got a master's degree in history, and then I went to Purdue, where I got my PhD. I saw a Purdue sweatshirt over here, too. Where's the Purdue hoodie? Is that in this period, or was it last period? Maybe it was last period. Okay, well, at any rate. When I went to Purdue, I worked with Randy Roberts. He was my mentor there. And Randy's the best teacher, best lecturer, and the most talented writer I know. And I just tried to absorb everything that I could learn from him. I wanted to write books the way that he did. And so we worked closely together. I graduated from Purdue, and then I published my dissertation as my first book. Next slide. The Sons of Westwood. About John Wooden. John Wooden was a great basketball coach at UCLA in the 1960s and the 1970s. He won 10 national championships in 12 seasons. 10 national championships in 12 seasons. 7 in a row. This was the moment when college basketball became big business. A commercialized sport on television when March Madness became a national cultural phenomenon. It was also a moment when the sports world and the political world collided in ways that had never been seen before. Why? Because athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Walton and other players in the program became politically active. They found their voice outside of the basketball court. They became involved in the civil rights struggle, the anti-war movement, the counterculture, and the new left. And so I wanted to explore all of that. How college basketball became politicized and these tensions and the backlash against them from fans and alumni who said, shut up and dribble. But they weren't having it. They weren't playing that game. Next slide. So, how did I do this? How did I go from never having written anything this long before to writing a book? I had to commit to a process. So, the process begins with a question. A basic question, usually a broad question when I start a book, a fundamental question. And from there, I try to answer the question. The whole point of the book for me is try to answer those fundamental questions. So for me, I was interested in how did John Wooden build this dominant program? How did college basketball become a commercialized enterprise that transformed college basketball players from amateurs to professionals playing under the guise of amateurism? How did the politics of the 60s, the campus unrest, transform the way these athletes joined these social movements? Those are the kinds of questions I was asking. So I read secondary materials, histories, biographies, memoirs, all sorts of books and articles and so on. But then the real fun begins. I went to UCLA. I went to the place where it all happened. That's where the field work starts. And I went into the UCLA library, the UCLA archives, and I went through old issues of the Daily Bruin newspaper and the campus yearbook and the LA Times. And I read documents from the athletic program and letters that were written by the athletic director and on and on and on. All of those documents, all of those sources, those were my puzzle pieces. Now I could start to put the puzzle together. I could start to see the image of the book in my mind's eye. So once I had all the material, I organized them into files. It's a complicated process that I won't bore you with. Then I construct a timeline. What are the key events? What are the turning points, the pivotal moments that mattered on and off the court? And how do I integrate them? Once I have those answers, I sketch the arc of the story. There's a clear beginning, middle, and end in my mind. I can see the narrative. I can see the story unfold, right? And I begin drafting an outline for the first chapter. So I work on that level. And once I can see that chapter, then I say, okay, let's write. Let's go to it. But it's not that easy. I have graduate students who come to me and they say, well, I can't get started. How do I do this? How do I find that first line? And some of that is talent. Some of it is practicing your craft. Some of it is experience. But what I try to do is think of something that is provocative, that will make the reader want to keep reading, to turn the page. So when I sat down to write the first line in chapter 1, I said to myself, I need a line that puts the reader with John Wooden in 1948 when he's leaving Indiana to go to UCLA. He's taken this job, and he's filled all this doubt because he regrets his decision to leave Indiana State to go to UCLA. UCLA was terrible when he took the job. So this is what I wrote. John Wooden wanted to turn around, but it was too late. Indiana was long gone in his rearview mirror. John Wooden wanted to turn around, but it was too late. Why is it too late? Why does he want to turn around? What's going on here? Indiana's in his rearview mirror. Why is he leaving Indiana? Immediately, the reader has nothing but questions. I've not given away the story. I could have started it with, in 1948, John Wooden left Indiana State to go to UCLA. Boring, right? I want you to keep reading. So suspense, tension, character. So then I described how he's in this car with his family. He's got his wife up front, his 2 kids in the back, and he's squeezing the steering wheel because he's on the LA freeway, and he's pounding the wheel. And the anger's getting the best of him. He's like a boiling pot of water, water's about to come over. So he later would retell this story that he didn't think he made the right choice. And this is a man who goes on to win 10 titles. The point is not just about John Wooden's story, but for you all to think about this. You don't know what's going to happen next in your life. You're going to make choices that are going to have a series of consequences that you cannot foresee, right? That's part of life. Okay, so I write the first chapter after I get the opening line down, and I set these regular goals, writing consistently. You can never put the book down in your mind once you start. At least I can't. I'm always writing in my mind, even when I'm not at the desk. And you know who knows this more than anyone? My wife. Bless her heart. Oh, she's the sweetest. But sometimes I'll be on the couch, and it looks like I'm not doing anything, but I'm over in writing land. And she'll start talking, and then I try to pick up, like, yeah, and she knows immediately. She's like, you weren't listening, were you? I was like, well, I was over here writing. She's like, okay, so back up. Anyhow. Okay, next slide. Okay. Okay, Blood Brothers. This is the book that has been probably the most recognized of the books that I've written, the most commercially successful. Not all books are commercially successful, that's okay. But this is a story about the relationship between the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali, who was then Cassius Clay when he met Malcolm X, who was a minister in the Nation of Islam. And they formed this incredible relationship. They became as close as brothers. They both referred to this brotherhood, this bond that they had. But that relationship would fray. It would become pulled apart for a variety of reasons that we explain in the book. And ultimately, we write about how, as a result of Malcolm X leaving the Nation of Islam, Muhammad Ali joined a chorus of disciples of Elijah Muhammad, who was the leader of the Nation of Islam, who verbally attacked Malcolm X, called him a traitor for leaving the Nation of Islam, called him a hypocrite, and we write about how Malcolm's life became in grave danger once he left the nation. At any rate, this story is really about how this brotherhood formed at a pivotal moment during the civil rights struggle, and how Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali, the most politicized athlete in America, and one of the most hated black men in America. Today, we romanticize Ali. We celebrate him as a hero of courage for his stand against the Vietnam War. But in 1964, when he won the heavyweight title and he changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, he was denounced. He was denounced by white people. He was denounced by black people. He was not celebrated. So we tell this story in the book Blood Brothers. Then, after Blood Brothers came out and Muhammad Ali died, there's a lot of interest in Ali. And we sold the film rights to the book to a production company called Lightbox. They make great award-winning documentaries. I was very excited about working with Lightbox. And then they connected with Netflix. Have you ever heard of Netflix? Yeah? And I'm on Netflix now. It's pretty neat. They made the documentary. So I went out to LA. I worked with the producers and the director as a consultant, and they interviewed me on camera so I could appear in the documentary telling the story about Ali and Malcolm X, and pretty neat. The film was nominated for an NAACP Image Award, and so it was all pretty great experience for me. Okay, next slide. Then I wrote a couple more books with Randy about baseball, one about Mickey Mantle, the great Yankee icon. Then I wrote a book called War Fever. We started writing this book, War Fever, about three figures in Boston, one of which was a young Babe Ruth, who then played for the Red Sox. And it takes place in 1918, which was not only the year of the Great War, the last year of the First World War, but it was also when the great influenza pandemic erupted, okay? So we write this book, and then it comes out when we all experienced our own pandemic. And so what was really interesting is that I would get phone calls, and I did a bunch of interviews with the media. They wanted to know, about the parallels between the pandemic of 1918 and the pandemic that began in 2020, and how the pandemic disrupted the sports world. And so it was really fascinating. But I assured them I did not plan it that way. Okay, next slide. My most recent book was about my childhood hero, Michael Jordan. This book came out not that long ago in November, and it explores the rise of Michael Jordan in American culture, how he became an icon, and how Americans viewed Jordan, why they celebrated him as a hero, what he meant to the people of Chicago, what he meant to Americans. And so if you're interested in the story of Michael Jordan in the NBA, you might check out Jumpman. Okay, next slide. How much time do I have? When's this class end? 8 minutes, I'm doing good, okay. This is my fourth period, and so I've tried to, modify as I go to save time for questions at the end. Anyone in here want to be a writer? You do, great, you do. Anyone else? Did I miss anybody? Don't be ashamed, put your hand up, yeah. All right, well, I get it. Not everybody in here is going to be a writer, but I was asked to talk a little about being a writer, how you can be successful, so I have a few tips. I'll get you out of here on this. Good writers are good readers. You've got to read books, okay? You've got to read books. How many of you are going to go to college? Okay. Do yourself a favor. In the summertime, pick books that interest you. Read them. Too many students I'm seeing, they struggle reading a book from cover to cover. It's a skill. You've got to work at it. You've got to work at it. It requires concentration. It requires determination. Active reading is important in developing your critical thinking skills, your communication skills, right? Your comprehension skills. All that is important. And I gotta say, I've been at Georgia Tech for 12 years now. Some very, very bright students. It's very hard to get in there. I couldn't have gotten in there. But a lot of these students, when it comes to reading, it's not their strength. We've got to focus on that. It starts with you, okay? So think about that. Read in the summer when you have more free time. Read and write about subjects that matter to you. That's my thing. Sports matter to me. So that's why I picked it. That's why I decided to write about sports. I feel like they're important. And that's something to say about American culture. If you're going to be a writer, you're writing about something that matters to you, have a purpose, right? A larger purpose for why you want to use your voice to say something, right? You have to have a motivation to satisfy your own curiosity first, okay? That's important. Then, finally, I think it's important to write in a way that moves people, that provokes them to think, that challenges their assumptions, that makes them question, to re-examine their own thoughts, their own feelings, but also try to make them feel something, right? Whether it's joy or surprise or sadness, but ultimately, for me, writing is all about getting the reader to turn the page. Get them to think that they want to know more, even at the end of the book, that they will want to go and pick up another book. That's what I do, what I do. You have any questions? Yes, in the way back.
So what was your favorite book when you were little, and why?
My favorite book when I was, younger?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can pick out one book, but I do know that when I was in middle school, that's when I started reading sports biographies. I was fascinated by the past. And I would often ask my grandpa, I'll get you too, I would often ask my grandpa about sporting events that happened when I wasn't alive, that he could tell me about it. And so, I don't know if there's any one book, but I think just getting the idea that there were these incredible stories that I could find in books, that excited me, that interested me. So it probably started then when I was imagining reading about these stories. Yeah?
Aside from basketball, what was your favorite sport?
Playing? That's a good question. First of all, I couldn't hit a baseball. I had to give it up at some point. I was like, these pitchers are too fast. I just wasn't that good. And that's okay. You gotta find your thing. I did play football at LHS, but I'm not built for football. I don't know what I was thinking. I remember my senior year, I was a defensive back, and we had this tackling drill. And, some guys, they line up like in a tunnel fashion. Do I have any football players in here on the team? One? Okay. All right. Okay, yeah. So, the running back has the ball, and I'm at the other end of this row, and he's gonna come straight at me. Okay, you saw my basketball picture? I weighed like 140 pounds. What do they expect me to do? This guy is gonna run me over. So, I played. I didn't like it very much, okay? I preferred basketball. It was less dangerous. But I had a lot of fun. I had great friends on the football team. We were pretty good my senior year. We were undefeated during the regular season. And so we had a great time. So I have great memories of playing on those teams. The locker room's fun, the camaraderie, the connection, the jokes on the road, jokes that I cannot repeat here, all that stuff, right? Good times, good times. What else? Yeah.
Who were the 3 teachers that went to your graduation party?
Andy Bitta. So he was the assistant basketball coach here. Jim Panther, who was the baseball coach. I didn't play for him, but we developed this rapport. He's one of my favorite people here. And Mrs. Miner, who taught computer classes. She was the sweetest lady, but I probably drove her nuts. Because remember, this is in my not-so-focused stage of my education. So I would go in there, and I'm supposed to do this computer work, and I just wanted to talk to her and talk to my classmates and talk to the girls and, doing things I wasn't supposed to do. But for some reason, we had this bond, and it meant a lot that they came to my graduation, and so it was, to me, that's what I take with me, that they had this special connection with me, and so I'll remember that for that. That's a good question. Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who always has writers when he was always trying to write?
Her question is, what advice would you give to a writer? I see you too, buddy, in the back. I'll get you. Who has writer's block. You're trying to write. The first thing you have to think about is, what is the point of the sentence? Why are you writing it to begin with? So what I try to do is I take a question and then I answer it, and the answer is your sentence. So, like, it could be as simple as, you know, who won the heavyweight championship in 1964? Turn it around. In 1964, Muhammad Ali defeated Sonny Liston to win the heavyweight championship of the world, right? Take your question that's gnawing at you, flip it around, turn it into an answer. Does that make sense? You send me an email if you want to talk some more, okay? All right. Where's the guy in the back?
What year did you graduate?
99. I'm old. Play with who? Jack who? Hinckley? Binkley. I don't, that name does not ring a bell. Yeah, I don't know. Is he playing? Is he messing with me? Are you messing with me? You're not? I don't recognize the name. But thank you for asking. Was there another question? Did I miss anybody? Yeah.
Do you know somebody named Michael Bush?
Do I know? Did he graduate when I was in school?
He's a